decided you're definitely going to send National Guard troops to Chicago?
I didn't say when, but the answer is, look, Chicago's very interesting because I watched Pritzker get up and say about, we don't need help, we're safe. But 2 weeks ago, they had 6 people murdered, and they had 24 people hit by bullets. Last week, as you know, it was 7 people, 24 people hit, and 7 people died. And then over the last 2 days, that was the crown jewel. They had, I guess, 9 or 10 killed, and 50 hit with bullets. And you have this governor get up, who's a terrible governor. Probably he and Gavin Newsom would be probably the 2 worst and most naive. They're naive. Either they're naive or they're very untruthful. And he'll say, we don't want any protection. We don't need. So in the last 3 weeks, he's lost almost 20 people killed. There's no place in the world, including you can go to Afghanistan, you can go to places that you would think of. They don't even come close to this. Chicago is a hellhole right now. Baltimore is a hellhole right now. Parts of Los Angeles are terrible. If we didn't put out the fires, and I mean the other fires, the bullet fires, they didn't do a good job with, they should have had the water coming down, like I said. You know, we had to release the water. We had to go in and release the water to LA. It's so badly run. But if I didn't send the National Guard into Los Angeles, I would be making an announcement today. I'd be talking about Huntsville, and I'd simultaneously be saying, by the way, the Olympics is not coming to Los Angeles. If we didn't.
So let's be honest for a second, because Donald Trump is out here saying he's ready to send the National Guard to restore order in American cities. And the people in charge of those cities are losing their minds over it. And he's saying flat out that he doesn't care if the governors or mayors want this help or not. He's coming to save places he calls hell on earth. But let's ask the real question. Is he right? And have things gotten so bad that this is our only option? And the bigger question is this. How do we get to a place where we normalize the level of chaos we're seeing in cities like Chicago and Baltimore? When did we start pretending this was okay? Because today we're cutting through the political noise. Forget the talking points. We're going to look at what's really going on and check the facts on the ground and talk about what it means when a president says he has to step in because local leaders have completely lost control. All right. So the first thing the critics scream about is the law. Can a president send in troops when a state says no? The answer is it's a fight, but there's a clear path forward. And the main obstacle they point to is law from the 1800s, the Quasi-Comitatus Act. In simple terms, it was designed to keep the military out of domestic policing, and a respectable idea in principle, but we're not in the 1800s no anymore. The challenges we face are different, and some people use that law as a shield to avoid accountability. But there's a more powerful tool, one designed for exactly this kind of crisis, the Insurrection Act of 1807. This is the president's constitutional authority to act within a state is either unable or, more importantly, unwilling to protect its own citizens from chaos. So when a state government fails to stop widespread violence that violates people's basic right to live in safety, this act gives the presidents the power to step in. And it's been used before. President Eisenhower, Kennedy used it to send troops to the South to enforce desegregation when local leaders refuse to uphold the law. And the principle is the same. When local officials refuse to do their job and protect citizens' rights, the federal government has a duty to intervene. Let's continue.
That if we didn't do that, and even the sheriff, the top law enforcement person in Los Angeles said, we could not have handled it without them. So that's what he said.
You made your mind up on Chicago, though?
Well, we're going in. I didn't say when. We're going in. When you lose, look, I have an obligation. This isn't a political thing. I have an obligation. When we lose, when 20 people are killed over the last 2.5 weeks, and 75 are shot with bullets. So let me tell you a little story about a place called D.C., District of Columbia, right here where we are. It's now a safe zone. We have no crime. It's in such great shape. You can go and actually walk with your children, your wife, your husband. You can walk right down the middle of the street. You're not going to be shot, Peter. You're safe. Everyone likes you anyway. They probably wouldn't do it. But it's so dangerous. And there are people in this audience that you've suffered greatly. There are people in this audience that have been mugged and hurt badly, and they don't want to talk about it. Maybe you were very brave in talking about it. You made quite an impression on a lot of people. I appreciate it. But there were other people in this room that have been hurt very badly just walking down the street in D.C. Washington, D.C. is a safe zone right now. It's a safe city. The restaurants are open. They're booming. You can't get a restaurant. New restaurants are announcing that they're going to be open. This took place in 12 days. Now it's 15 days, but 3 days ago it became what's known as a safe zone. It's a safe city. And this city was really bad, really, really bad. We took 1,600 people out, hardcore criminals that will not be coming back anytime soon. And
Let's give a round of applause, man. Let's give a round of applause. So when Trump talks about Chicago and Baltimore, he's making a case that the out-of-control crime is a civil rights crisis. He's arguing that the leadership in those cities is failing in his most basic duty. And of course, the governors of Illinois and Maryland, J.B. Pritzker and Westmore, are promising a court battle. But what does that really mean? It means they'd rather fight the president than fight the criminals terrorizing their cities. And they call the idea dangerous, but what's truly dangerous is ignoring the violence that their own citizens live with every single day. Bottom line, the legal fight is just politics. The real issue is whether a president should stand by and do nothing while American cities burn.
we're very proud of it. You know, to have our nation's capital lose every week. You know, it was like years, many years, where every single week somebody was killed for many, many, many consecutive weeks. This went on for years. And then we had, last week it was announced that nobody was killed last week. And I made that announcement in front of a very distinguished leader of a country. And I'm saying proudly, ladies and gentlemen, nobody was killed in Washington, D.C. this week. He looked at me like, what's that all about? I say, yeah, we have a little bit of a crime problem, and we don't have a crime problem in Washington anymore. And the mayor has been very helpful, and the police commission has been very helpful, and it's been a great team. And I would love to have Governor Pritzker call me. I'd gain respect for him and say, we do have a problem, and we'd love you to send in the troops, because you know what? The people, they have to be protected. I saw today on one of your networks, not a friendly network, except really the opposite, I would say, very unfriendly network. And they interviewed about 12 people on this morning. Most of them were African American, who were black. And they were saying, please, please, please let the president send in. These were people from Chicago. Please, we need help. We need help. We can't walk outside. We're petrified. If the governor of Illinois would call me up, I would love to do it. Now, we're going to do it anyway. We have the right to do it because I have an obligation to protect this country. And that includes Baltimore. I saw where Governor Moore was asking me to take a walk down the street of Baltimore. Well, Baltimore is a very unsafe place. It's rated number 4 in the city, one of the most unsafe places anywhere in the world. But, you know, we took care. This was a beautiful thing that happened in Washington because we showed that it could be done. And this wasn't just sending big, strong guys, and they are big and they are strong. You know, we had a great decision from the Supreme Court that had to do with sort of talent. It had to do with you are put down based on merit. You can hire based on merit. So merit for a soldier or for a policeman is strong, physically fit,
capable.
Something, you know, having a certain ability.
Yeah, having the capability to be able to do the job and being able to be excellent or phenomenal when it comes to being a strong force.
Not a person that is woke and got the job through woke, but wasn't strong enough to lift a gun out of the holster, et cetera, et cetera. No, I looked at the police. As you know, last week I went over, we had a meeting with, there had to be 300 people, and they were all very impressive looking. And when the bad guys see them, they're not going to do a thing. And so I'm very proud of Washington. It serves as a template. and we're going to do it elsewhere. But Chicago is certainly going to be high. I would love to have him call. I would love the governor of Illinois. I'd be honored to take his call. All he has to do is say, sir, we need help. It's out of control. And everyone knows it is. He's not kidding anyone. I would love to have, I would say, Governor Moore call, because I watched him over the weekend trying to explain that Baltimore, what they need is housing. No, they don't need housing. They need to get rid of the criminals. These are hardcore
They're tearing the
criminals.
communities
we
up.
took many people off the streets of Washington, D.C. They're hardcore. They're not going to be good. In 10 years, in 20 years, in 2 years, they're going to be criminals. They were born to be criminals.
And there you have it, folks. So the politicians can argue the law, but what about the facts on the ground? They'll try to tell you things are getting better, but look at what that progress really means. Because first, Baltimore, the city leaders love to brag about a historic drop in violent crime, and they'll tell you homicides are on pace for their lowest number in decades. But a drop from what? From catastrophic levels? A city that has been one of the most dangerous in America for years doesn't become a paradise overnight. So they'll tell you the homicides are down nearly 30% from last year. And it sounds good, but they are trying to gaslight you, because ask the people who actually live there if they feel 30% safer. They are selling you a percentage while ignoring the blood in the streets. And now, what about Chicago? This is where the spin is even more insulting, because over the recent Labor Day weekend, more than 50 people were shot and 8 were killed. Let that sink in for a minute. Over 50 people shot in one weekend. And that's not just a problem, that's an atrocity you expect in a literal war zone. But local leaders will point to a report from the first half of the year and say homicides are down 33%. How can you talk about a report from 6 months ago when a single weekend looks like a battlefield? It's a complete distortion of reality. And the fact is, even with their so-called improvements, Chicago's violent crime rate is still far higher than the average for a large city. So the narrative that these cities are turning a corner is a dangerous lie. And it's what politicians say when they have no real answers. The people living there, working there, and trying to raise families there know the truth. And this isn't about statistics in a report. It's about whether you can walk outside without fearing for your life. And in many parts of these cities, you can't. So look, if you believe in facing the hard truths instead of just accepting the official story, take a second to subscribe and hit that notification bell. It helps to continue to call it out like it is, to call it like it is. So if local leaders are fighting back and the media is trying to spin the numbers, why is Trump doing this? It's not about politics, it's about leadership. First, it's about a standard of excellence. Trump's point is that for America to be seen as the gold standard, our cities have to be safe. Chicago, Baltimore, Los Angeles, these places represent America to the world. And if we want to host the World Cup or the Olympics, we can't have them looking like war zones. While politicians sell a fantasy to the world, the people living there are stuck in a violent reality. And second, this is about calling out the absolute delusion of the political class. The leaders in these cities sell hope while presiding over chaos and decay, and they market themselves as saviors. They market themselves as saviors while the problems only get worse. They normalize a level of violence that would be unthinkable in most other developed nations. And honestly, many people who see this dysfunction have never been outside of the country, and they have nothing to compare it to. And this chaos has become their normal, and that's the real tragedy. And finally, it's about responsibility, because frankly, a lesser leader would say they voted for it, let them deal with it. But Trump sees himself as the president of the entire country, not just the parts that vote for him. Because I know they spewing around, oh well, why he's not going to Republican states? I know they also have crime, and you're right, they do have crime. Two things could be true at the same time. But he's making it clear he believes he has a duty to protect every American city, even the ones who leaders openly despise them. And you can respect that. You can respect that, whether you like his style or not. In some of these neighborhoods, you can't call the regular police anymore. You need a force like the National Guard just to stabilize things. So let's lay it all out. You have Donald Trump is willing to use the full authority of his office to bring order into American cities where the local leadership has failed. And we've seen the legal tools like the Insurrection Act exist for this exact purpose, to protect citizens when their own state governments won't. We all seen that the claims of progress in these cities are a fantasy. You can't celebrate a statistical drop in crime when dozens of people are being shot in a single weekend. The hellhole description isn't an exaggeration to the families living in fear. This was never about political optics. This was about safety, stability, and the fundamental quality of life for millions of Americans. And it's about whether a president should be expected to do what's necessary when things have fallen apart so completely. And this whole debate cuts to the core of what we should demand from our leaders. Do we want leaders who will manage the decline and pretend everything is fine? Or do we want leaders who will look at an atrocity and call it what it is and then do something about it? This isn't just another political squabble. It's a fight for the safety of our cities and the future of our country. Catch you in the next one, family. Love you guys. Peace.